All right. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. I am so glad that you're joining us tonight for one of my favorite things I do, which is the author launches of our amazing books through EduMatch Publishing. And I am honored tonight to be here with one of my favorite people that we work with at EduMatch, and that is Nicole Biscotti. So, Nicole, if there is anybody out there who lives in a cave and doesn't know who you are, can you please give us a little bit of information about what you do?
Thank you for that intro. I am really, really blessed to have found EduMatch. You guys are amazing. It's really wonderful to work with people with such integrity. So I'm a mom and a teacher, and I started writing about ADHD and how we can do better for kids with ADHD.
Yeah, and you know, as soon as the second that you mentioned this book to me, I thought, oh my gosh, this is so needed. This is so needed, because really, from the perspective of, like you just said, you're a mom and a teacher, and you know, I hadn't seen anything out there from both of those standpoints, kind of marrying those together. So I'm so excited to get this book launched. And who do you have next to you?
I have the inspiration behind everything, Jason, my son.
Hello.
Hey, buddy. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I have ADHD. I'm 10.
What is your favorite thing to do?
Probably research random stuff.
Really? Well, that's interesting. Like, what's your favorite thing to research?
A lot of wars are fascinating, yeah, I'll say that.
Very cool. Well, that is awesome. Well, so one of the very special pieces that we're going to have of this EduMatch launch is Jason is actually going to visit us a little bit later in the launch and give us a Q&A. And so if you have questions that you would like to ask of Jason, as far as his ADHD and things that help him, strategies that help him, what it feels like, any of those types of things, please hold on to them and write them down and get ready, because we're going to ask you to put them in the comments or somehow get us those questions so that we can ask Jason and he can do his Q&A and become as famous as ultimately, you know, we all know he's going to be. So we're just trying to be the launch for Jason's superstardom at this point. So we're so excited to have him on. So to get started, we're going to, I always just ask the authors a few questions about the book, because I love to hear the authors talk about their projects, and they're always so passionate. And so we're going to start out with, tell me about I Can Learn When I'm Moving, going to school with ADHD, and why you decided to write it.
Well, really, the book started as Jason journaling. So when Jason would become frustrated, we would journal and try to, it was a way to calm him down. And as we started, we would journal on my phone. So I had a bunch of small narratives from him when he was frustrated about different incidents that had happened at school, or maybe just near where we lived in the neighborhood playing with other children, or with his siblings. And I realized as I would look back on these that we were starting to develop a narrative. And it was a narrative that really hasn't been out there, which is the voice of a child with ADHD. And I just want to say ADHD is very complex and it presents very differently in different children. But I also will say that as a teacher, you know, I was living this with my son. And then I teach high school, and I would go to school and I would see a lot of what I'm going to call tall Jasons, because there's a lot of things about ADHDers that are pretty, that stand out. So I started to realize that Jason's voice was important. It was important to elevate Jason's voice, not just for Jason and to validate what he was going through, but because this voice has validity and has value in terms of helping educators to understand better. And I also, another thing that struck me as we were going along in this journey of ours of learning is how little I knew about ADHD. And pretty highly educated educator. I have advanced degrees, and yet I really didn't know very much about ADHD.
What was the most surprising thing that you discovered, do you think?
I think that for me at the moment, what was the most surprising, which sounds a little funny looking back on it now, but in all honesty, was one time in the children's hospital when a psychiatrist showed me the two different brain scans, the brain scan of somebody with ADHD and somebody that's what we call neurotypical. Because I guess I'm a visual learner. So when I saw that, it really erased any remnants of that old lens that I had of him just misbehaving or just being difficult. And it took a lot of pressure off me as a parent, because up until now, I felt like most parents do when our kids are acting up, like there was something I was doing wrong.
Sure. Yeah, sure. And you know that I'm a huge believer in going back to the brain and our emotions and our bodies and why certain things happen. And so I can see how that would be sort of a wake-up call. Like, you have actual physical evidence that things are not neurotypical, and you know, and then you're seeing the result of that, right? And so yeah, I can see how that would be, you know, especially if you're super visual, how that would be surprising. So that's really interesting. So going on a little bit, who is the book really written for? Like, is this just geared towards you know, special educators and that's it, or who did you write this for?
That's an interesting question, because when I was writing the book, I kept thinking that I had to either be a mom in the book or a teacher, or I had to be speaking to moms or teachers. And then I realized at some point that I really can't separate that, because I'm both. And I also, as I was sharing on social media, different blogs and different ideas and perspectives that I was gaining, I started to notice that even though I initially thought this would be more towards teachers, I learned that this really resonates with parents, because parents are the most invested in their children's education. And then also just remembering how when I go to IEP meetings, myself or Jason, well, he doesn't have an IEP, but those type of meetings, even as an educator, I feel at a loss. So my hope is that the strategies in the book, even though they're classroom strategies, I hope that it empowers parents to have things to bring to the table and to be able to speak enough teacher speak to advocate a little better for their children and to feel more empowered. Yeah,
because I think it's widely misunderstood. I mean, even, you know, from the standpoint, whether you're talking about ADD or ADHD, it's, you know, unless you are a special education teacher, and even then you're broadly special education. You're not specialized in that, you know, and as a teacher, we're definitely not given enough information on how to help students with, you know, specialized needs like that, where it does result in what appears to be behavioral issues. And we're not, you know, so we kind of make that jump, right? Because we have 30 kids in the class and we have to be able to serve all of them. And it's easier to make that jump than to really understand what's going on. And then also from a parent standpoint, I can't imagine trying to convince somebody else that your child's just not naughty. You know, that it is something that, you know, that they need to understand on a deeper level to really be that team that we need to service the student. And I would think that that's very emotional and, you know, can be kind of heartbreaking.
It's very emotional. It's very frustrating. And I will be honest that the more that I learned about this, the more frustrated I became with that, because in all reality, and this is, you know, there's some things I say in this book that were difficult to say, and were vulnerable to say, but they had to be said. And one of them is that, in speaking in broad terms, I don't believe that most general education teachers have the training to teach my son effectively.
Sure.
And I think that that's a really significant point, because we've been in the inclusion model since the 70s, technically. Not really, but technically.
Mm-hmm.
However, I'm a Spanish teacher in high school. I've never taken a course about how to best serve a dyslexic child or a child with autism, but I teach them, or ADHD. And that's something that I'm looking at from an advocacy standpoint, separately from the book, because I personally believe that we should all have endorsements in how to effectively teach these children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, somebody has to, because we don't have the professionals, the psychologists and the, the brain specialists who deal with dyslexia and things like that. We don't have them in our schools, unfortunately. So somebody has to be the expert on those things so that all of us can know. There are some just phenomenal comments. I've been trying to kind of pull them up as we go. Katie says, I feel like this book was written for this ADHD teacher mommy with ADHD son. So that is such a sweet thing to say. Tim says, honestly, I so need more ideas and strategies for serving my ADD kids, because it's not like, for the most part, teachers aren't ignoring the problem. They don't know what to do, right? I feel like it's not intentional. It's that there's so much to know in a day that they don't know what to do. And so they are generally looking for things. And of all of the, sort of specialized accommodations that we have to do, I feel like ADHD and ADD is sort of the most, that there's not enough information on it, is what I'm trying to say. There's not enough information that we can understand. That's not written for a psychologist, that's kind of out of our realm, that is that can be easily tackled, So I love this book. I love everything that you've done with it. Having a student voice, a child's voice in it is so powerful. And so it's almost time for, this is a party. We've had a very serious conversation so far, but this is a party. We got that serious conversation out where we're standing in the corner and we're chatting about stuff and talking shop. But now it's time to bring in your first guest. And he has actually been knocking at the door for quite some time. And so I feel kind of bad that he's been sitting out there. But we are going to bring in Coach Adam. And so, welcome, Coach Adam. How are you?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Awesome. Hey, Jason. Hey, Nicole. How are you? Mandy, so nice to finally meet you live.
Yeah, absolutely. No better way to meet people than to meet them.
Well, yeah, we've chatted in the Twitterverse. Most people have, but finally nice to converse with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome to the party. Thank you for being so patient. And so we're excited to hear you talk a little bit about Nicole's work and the book. Did you get a chance to read the book?
Oh, of course I did.
Awesome.
It was funny because Nicole wanted me to read it in advance. In addition, obviously, get a copy of the book. And when I set a time to talk with her, and I'll never forget this. So I remember, Nicole, I texted you and said, "Hey, what time can you talk?" I think it was a Saturday or Sunday. And it happened to be 2:00 my time in Chicago. And I had planned it where I was going to ask her a couple questions, probably about 5 or 6 questions. And it was pretty serious on the phone. And she said, or we're going over the last question. I said, well, I've got news for you, Nicole. She said, what? I said, I don't just love it. I freaking love it. I think she took a deep breath and she's like, oh my God, I thought you were going to say something. I read the book cover to cover, and Mandy, it was incredible. It was extraordinary. I literally wanted to jump out of my seat and said, finally someone, because I've had ADHD my whole life. I said, finally, an educator and a parent can bring the knowledge and awareness that we need to understand ADHD, ADD.
That's amazing. And so as someone who lives with ADHD or someone who lives with ADD, you connected with this book then? You felt like it was a clear representation of what you had gone through yourself?
Oh, absolutely. And Nicole did such a Nicole and Jason, excuse me, both of them did such a masterful job of keeping it simple. And you know, a blessing I always say with ADD and ADHD is we want it simple. You know, to give, this will date me a little bit, but we want the Cliff Note version of whatever you're presenting. We don't need the entire novel, 800 to 1,000 pages. We just want the Cliff Note version with exactly what we need to know, and then we kind of take our mind gets creative and we kind of put our information in there. So you know, Nicole and Jason did such a masterful job of keeping it simple, getting to the point, and educating us all on, I think, the absolute important facts and the voices of so many, including myself.
That is awesome. That's phenomenal to hear. And you know, sort of like what we were saying right before you came on, there just is not a lot of amazing information out there that's really going to capture what we can do for students. And one thing that I love that you said is you said we need it simple so that our brains can take and create. And that's one thing that I feel like we often miss about students with ADHD and ADD is their level of creativity. You know, that we look at them as bouncing off the walls when honestly are they trying to control their bodies? Yes, sometimes they're trying to control their bodies, but also they are super creative and oftentimes super creative. And that just feels like something that should be celebrated, because not all of us can think it quite as creatively as they can. So,
well, and it's there's also something interesting. You know, I read this one time, Mandy, where it said, "In life, you have to stop and smell the roses." Right. Mm-hmm. Well, I think people with ADHD, we have the philosophy that we can smell the roses while we're running with them in our hands. And you know, that's where you have to realize that we have a lot of energy. We have a lot to bring. I mean, me personally, I'm 45 years old, and you know, I still get up at 4 a.m. I work out, I do everything I can, and I don't go to bed till like 10 o'clock. I look at it as I got 18 hours in a day to accomplish what I can accomplish. I have to feel that I'm not alone in that ADHD, ADD world. And since that's how we are, you know, in educating us and teaching us, you either can get the best out of us, or you know, you could inhibit or block us. And that's a huge role of parents, coaches, teachers, educators, mentors. You just got to step into their world, and you got to understand how we learn. And it just, you know, it makes the dance, it makes the creativity of the education and the process so much more enhanced if you do it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you just said, you know, we can, I mean, that's just a general, that could be just a general statement, right? Like we can support kids in whatever way they are, or we can inhibit what they're doing. And I think that this book is such a phenomenal resource to really be able to understand what's happening from the standpoint of the student, as well as both the view of the parent and the educator. Because like I just said to Nicole before, I can't imagine how heartbreaking it is to go into a school and have teachers tell you about how they misbehave over and over and over again, you know, or how disorganized they are, or how they're not listening in class, or, you know, how they can't keep their hands to themselves, or all of the things that we know that we have said during parent-teacher conferences about a student who is either truly ADHD or ADD, or potentially ADHD or ADD. So I so appreciate everything that you've said. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about or ask Nicole, or Nicole you want to say?
Nicole, anything? Absolutely.
Thank you.
No, you're quite welcome. And you know, Nicole and I, we clicked instantly. We met probably about 2 years ago, I'd say. You know, in the Twitterverse, and I started to come a little bit more forward with my ADHD, and it's to give you, Mandy, to kind of give you a background. No kid is going to tell you they have ADHD, because that's kind of like asking a fish what's water like.
Sure.
They don't know. They're in water, right? That's all they know is water. A kid with ADHD, that's all he knows. My brain and the way I thought was perfect compared to everybody else. But then as you start going up the education ladder, and you get into a very academically demanding high school like I did, you start to realize, well, wait a minute, how come I'm not getting it like they are? These kids can pick it up right away. You lost me at hello. What's going on? So you have to realize that we've been searching for answers ourselves, or I guess there's been a level of frustration because we've tried to explain it to people, and it's ADHD, dyslexia, autism. Unless you have it, you won't understand it, and there's no other way to put that. But you can really step into people's worlds, and you can understand more about them, and more specifically how they learn and comprehend anything in education. And once you do that, you can actually have a major impact in that child's life. And I think that's why mentoring is something I'm very gifted at, because when parents come to me and tell me a lot of things that are challenging with their kids, I look past all that because I look at the child and I say, okay, tell me what you're good at, and let's go from there. And I think Nicole does such a wonderful job in this book of letting us know that we have that opportunity as parents, as teachers, as educators, as coaches in sports and athletics, that if we can literally step into their world and understand more of how they learn and in which way they learn, that we can impact them, and we can have a major impact of it when it counts, which is in their youth. So I'm so excited. I'm so happy for Nicole. Anything I can do to promote the book, I obviously will. Being on here is one thing, sharing on social media and promoting it every way. But she really nailed it with what we need to know, especially from the parents, educators, coaches viewpoint of a child with ADD, ADHD. Because ADD and ADHD can overlap into other things, mostly dyslexia. So, it's there's a lot there. And I call it the silent companion. I know, Nicole, you have a word for it.
The invisible condition.
The invisible condition. And it is, again, it's going back to that fish in water. Fish doesn't know it's in water because it lives in water. Kid with ADHD doesn't know it has ADHD because that's all they've known their whole life.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Coach Adam. I love all of the analogies. There's been comments about, Barbara Bray says she loves the running with the roses metaphor. Yeah, that one will definitely stick with me for a while as well. I love that. So, absolutely adore and love your input. And it really helps coming from somebody who's experienced this as well, who can read it and kind of give that feedback on it. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your feedback, and it was so good to meet you. And
yeah, nice to meet you finally, Mandy. Jason, great to see you. Great job on the book, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, bye, Coach Adam.
Thank you, Coach Adam.
All right, I'm so excited to meet him. I see him on the show all the time. So
he's one of Jason's favorites.
Yeah.
He's Jason.
Nice guy. Yeah, absolutely. So we have come to my absolutely my favorite part of every EduLaunch, although I think I might kind of like Jason's Q&A a little bit better on this one, but we're going to go with the reading. And so this is going to be Nicole, and she has 2 passages from the book. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So she's going to do an author read of 2 of the passages of the book.
So the first one that I wanted to read to you guys it's actually a piece of the book where Jason speaks and then I speak. And it speaks to this issue that we were talking about earlier of teachers needing support as well and not always understanding. So Jason, do you want to read your part or do you want me to read it? I'm going to read it, he said. Okay. So this is Jason speaking. For some reason, I started feeling mad and bored one day because we were learning about something stupid that I really didn't care about. I felt so much energy in me, and I just wanted to get it out. I started running around the room, and then I got the microphone thing to talk on the speaker in the classroom, and I just started yelling at the top of my lungs. That wasn't my go-to to get it out that way, but I was already mad, so that's what I did. I saw that the class was plugging their ears, and I knew that since they were plugging their ears, they weren't going to really like me or be my friend. But I just felt like I didn't care right then, and I kept going. Then the teacher turned it off from her laptop. So I grabbed a kid's water bottle and started running fast around the room, and then I finally got caught, and I had to sit in another classroom. So the next part that I'm going to read is after when the teacher and I were discussing it. So during one conversation, Jason's teacher, was expressing her frustration and how she had sincerely tried so many things and nothing was working. I switched into a listener mode in the conversation and tried to lend her support. I am a teacher, and I can only begin to imagine how hard it would be to have Jason in my class. I have a lot of empathy and appreciation for his teachers because I know what it's like to be in their shoes. She began telling me about how she was so worried about Jason that she prayed for him. We were sitting in a public school, so that comment seemed a little out of place, but I felt her sincerity and I took it in stride. What did alarm me was when she went on to tell me that she was concerned that he might be possessed by the devil. I am not kidding. So that's the first excerpt that I wanted to read. And then the next excerpt that I wanted to read is in my voice only. And this is one of the major changes in lens that I had about ADHD. And it came at an unexpected time. I recall an incident that changed my perspective. For years, I thought that Jason had the full responsibility of understanding that his behavior was often not socially acceptable, in quotes, and that he must adapt or be isolated. This seemed to be the harsh reality until one day when I realized that there is a more compassionate and accepting option. The inclusion model is powerful, not only for the child with a disability, but for all students. It is an opportunity for us to become more accepting of all members of society and to gain experience in honoring differences and learning to collaborate and share with others, which ultimately provides us with important social skills as well as an enhanced perspective. As I was wrapping up my own school day, I saw a missed call from Jason's school, which I returned. I was told that Jason and another boy had hit each other, and that because of that, Jason would receive a consequence at school. That part was not surprising to me, in all honesty. The administrator went on to describe the words that they used when speaking to Jason and explained that, quote, other kids don't want to play with him because he hits a lot and makes a lot of noise, and that he has to understand that kids don't like his behavior and don't want to be around him, end quote. I felt that I couldn't argue with her logic as I held back tears and quickly got off the phone. Another teacher near me overheard the conversation. She said that she was shocked that this was the best that the school could do for Jason. She expressed outrage that they were resigning themselves to Jason being unsuccessful socially, since he obviously could not regulate at this point due to a disability. I actually defended the school's position and said, what can they do about it? It's true. Other kids don't want to deal with his temper, nor should they have to. She replied that her son has Down syndrome and that no one would ever call her and tell her that other kids didn't want to play with him, much less tell her son that directly. She went on to suggest that the school could handle Jason's behavior difficulties as an opportunity for understanding, just as they do with her son or with a child that has a physical disability. That day was a real turning point for me in my understanding of inclusion and the implications that it can have for all children. Implemented correctly, educators have the power to create a more accepting society.
Oh my gosh. So both times I almost started to cry. So I would like those heads up before the EduLaunches start, just so you know. So very powerful stories. I love this person that just says Facebook user says this really shows how wide the gap of understanding can be. And that is, I mean, they just verbalized exactly what I was thinking as I was listening to you. And everything that we've talked about. And I love, I love hearing it both from Jason's perspective and then the same thing from yours. I also love that in the second piece of that, how you said you had resigned yourself to agreeing, and I think a lot of times, if you have a child who is physical with other children, that part is difficult because it is sort of the right of the other child to not want to be hurt. And it's so hard to figure out where that line is to both, want to help your child learn and respect the rights of the other children. So how did you end up, what was kind of the result of that, that discussion?
Well, no, of course, there's certain things that people tell you or that you realize. And that day for me was a real turning point, because it really did change my lens and made me realize that as a mother, I was essentially failing Jason because I had accepted it also for the reasons you stated. And when my friend put it in the context of a physical disability, that's when Coach Adam was referring to how I call it an invisible condition or disability. Jason doesn't look like he has anything not typical about him. So he doesn't have the same grace that other kids might have with different disabilities. And I think that was a big turning point for me. And another part of the book, I interview a 7-year-old little girl. And through her interview, I addressed the piece of how can we prepare the other kids in the classroom to be in the classroom with kids with ADHD? Because that is a very important piece. Jason's done a lot of kind of crazy stuff, right? Like throwing pencils and, there's been some incidents, right?
Yeah.
So, how do we prepare the other kids for that? And I had an interview with a 7-year-old, Amira, she's very insightful and very sensitive. And her teacher had chosen her to be a buddy to somebody who obviously has ADHD. And she talks about, from her point of view, how she's been able to understand him. And through her sharing, you can see the different interventions that her teacher has put into place in her classroom.
And I'm sorry, how old is she?
She's 7.
We never give our kids enough credit.
No.
I'm a little speechless, I'm not going to lie, because I remember my kids at 7, and I don't think that they would have been, I don't know, I could be wrong, but we definitely do not give our kids enough credit for being able to help with things like that. And that's amazing.
She shares things like, for example, one thing she said was that she understands that when her friend gets into Godzilla mode, that he's still her friend, because her teachers discussed that with her, that he just gets angry quickly, but that he goes with his counselor and he settles down. So she shared with me that when my friend gets into Godzilla mode, I know he's still my friend, and that he'll go to his counselor and come back calmer.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh. Well, we're going to move on to what is now my favorite part of this EduLaunch, and that is the Q&A with Jason. And we have never had a Q&A before on here. Never. You are the first. So we're so excited to have you on, and I have already thrown in there that people should be putting in their questions for Jason. So if you have access to the chat either on Facebook or on YouTube, I can see both of them. So please go ahead and put your questions in there for Jason. I noticed one question already was, do you have any thoughts on how to help high school or any students really with ADHD or ADD if they're learning virtually?
Is that for me or Jason?
I think either of you.
I don't know.
Well,
I'm not in high school.
Well, you're not in high school, that's true.
Yeah.
So kind of what are you struggling with the most virtually? I would say it's the organization piece.
Organization.
Yeah.
Okay. As you're learning online, organization is the biggest issue? Yeah. Do you have like, how do you organize, Jason? Like, is there a certain thing that you do that helps?
I don't really know a certain thing I do.
Or what about what your teachers do, the daily stuff?
I'm like freezing here.
Honey, we're both teachers. We have like extended wait time. Like we understand waiting. So you're okay. Take your time. You want to go on to the next one and we can come back to that one
I'm sorry.
Okay. No, don't apologize. You're totally okay. Let me tell you that if anybody asked me to get onto a live stream and share something like this about myself at your age, I would have said no, thank you, because I would have never had the courage to do what you're doing. Okay. So we've got this. There are lots of other questions for you. Okay. So like, Jason, when you struggle, how are adults most helpful and what do you want them to do?
When I struggle, I want them to understand that I like to learn and I want to learn. It's just harder for me.
Okay. Thank you so much. How about this one? How did you find the courage to share your story?
I really don't know.
Did you have to dig deep or are you just naturally courageous?
I kind of would say that I just did it. I didn't really think much about it.
So you're naturally courageous. All right, let's see. We have so many questions. Let's see. How about this one? Jason, what advice do you have for kids your age who are having struggles in school?
Advice. In terms of advice, I would say in terms of advice,
Is there something you would encourage them to do or to think about? What helps you?
I try to put on a mindset like you got this. You can do this, Jason. Like in those rough times of the day, then I would probably just like go in a current mindset and like tell myself, you got this, Jason, you know. Stuff like that. That's what I would do.
Do you have like any special voice you use in your head, like a superhero voice or anything?
Yeah, something like that, you know.
Awesome. That is awesome. Okay, let me see. Here we go. Jason, what is your favorite thing to do at school and why?
Is this like you can pick anything?
Anything you want.
Probably playing like football and soccer at recess.
All right. Do you have a certain position you love to play?
In soccer, I like to be defense or midfield. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Okay. Jason, what are the most exciting types of lessons or activities for you in school? Like what do you like it when the teacher does a certain thing? What do you like?
Is this like kind of like a favorite subject kind of question in a way? Because then I have an answer, yeah.
Let's start with that, and then I'll ask you a little bit more.
When we do science, At my school, or my old school, because I don't know how it's like here. When we would do it at my old school, we would like dig deep into it and then also do like little projects, like put like this rock in a jar, stuff like that kind of shows it.
Okay. So you like to learn by watching stuff and you like to use your hands?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So when teachers do those kinds of things in lessons, no matter which subject it is, you like that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That really, that kind of stuff helps us as teachers because we get to hear that and then say, oh, we can totally do that for our students and make it better. Cause that's like a big thing that teachers try to do is figure that kind of stuff out. So that's awesome. All right, let's see. This Facebook user said, I am so impressed with how thoughtful Jason is. So that's not a question, but I just had to show you that.
Thank you.
And then, do you have virtual or online school, Jason?
Yes.
You
Yes.
do? Okay. So what do you wish teachers would do differently in a virtual classroom that would help you learn virtually better?
Since you can't do like a project where you're kind of learning through a screen,
Mhm.
it's always cool to like watch a video that shows the project.
Okay. So,
Like that. I like watching videos. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else?
A lot of times they don't do the videos, so
They just kind of talk.
yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes teachers like to hear themselves talk. I've noticed that too. I think I was one of those teachers. All right. So we have one last question quick, and then we have another guest. So Tara is saying, Jax, age 10, wants to know how you get through the day.
In online school or real school? Because
I'm going to say just in general in school. So regular school, like what are some things that you do to help yourself throughout the day?
sometimes I fidget around with stuff. I do that superhero voice, you know. You got this, Jason. You can do it.
Of course. Yeah.
I like to ask my teacher if I can take walks.
Okay.
Around campus, like a 5-minute walk, and then I come back and I'm all worked up. And then also getting a drink from the water fountain is fun sometimes, you know.
Okay.
Because you're getting up, and sometimes just the water is good, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. So when you say fidgets, do you use those actual fidgets that you use? Do you have those?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Or sometimes it's just doing like a little tiny tap on my desk or just fidgeting around with stuff.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Those are fantastic strategies that teachers need to know. So that is so super helpful for us. And when, I was talking to your mom before and we were saying that it's not that teachers don't care. It's that they just don't know what to do because they have so many students in a classroom and they're trying to figure everybody out. And talking to a student who's as articulate as you and who can actually say, this is what helps me. Do this for me. That is so important. So important. You always need to be able to advocate for yourself. It doesn't matter how old you get. I find that even as old as I am, which is pretty old, I still have to advocate for myself. And so you will need that skill your entire life. So that is amazing. I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
You have done an amazing job with this book. You and your mom both. So we have another guest that has been patiently waiting for us that we're going to bring in here. And so we're going to invite her in. And this is Marilyn Miller. Hi, Marilyn. How are you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. It's Friday. It's been a long week of advocacy work in a crazy environment. And so next week, the kids have break in New England and we're up skiing. And I brought wine to the party.
Grape juice.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that is awesome. So have you gotten a chance to read the book?
Yes, I have. And I just want to say that Nicole is very courageous.
Mm-hmm.
Especially given the environment we're in. I think, there's such a micro focus on teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And, to give this kind of real, raw perspective and saying the things that need to be said, but that are hard to say, I think takes a significant amount of moral character. So I give her a lot of credit because this type of perspective is long overdue. In my
Absolutely. And we need those people, right? Like we need those advocates who are going to stand up for things that other people are just not ready to stand up for or just don't know enough to stand up for them. And it takes a lot of courage to put yourself out there like that and be ready for whatever comes.
Yes. And if anyone can do it, it's Nicole, because she has a way about her that I just wish that I could mimic, but I can't yet. But I'm a work in progress.
Yeah, she has a charisma about her that you just want to listen.
Yes, she does.
Absolutely. So, who do you think, like, if you had to recommend this book to somebody, who would you recommend it for?
Well, first of all, I'm going to recommend it to every single teacher. And I think that's mainly because, we talk about an inclusion model, but you can't have a successful inclusion model if our teachers don't have the knowledge to achieve an inclusion model. I just really have my heart hurts for our teachers because we're asking them to do a very tall task, but we're not giving them the tools and the knowledge and the training and the skills that they need to achieve the inclusion model.
Yeah.
So, I really think that teachers will benefit from this the most, mainly because parents of children that are neurodiverse and that learn differently, we already come into kindergarten with the knowledge that we know there's something unique about our children, but we may not know what it is yet. Like for myself, my daughter Lauren is dyslexic. She has dyscalculia, which is the math version of dyslexia. And she has clinically ADHD due to her executive functioning weaknesses. But I didn't know all this. I didn't even know those words until she was 8 years old, when she was identified in the first half of second grade. So I think, although I knew something was unique, I didn't know what it was. And so for teachers to be able to be sort of on the same page, I think would be very beneficial for the child as well as the parents.
Sure. Yeah, and I think in many ways the inclusion model turned into let's just put all the kids together and in some cases and hope for the best, because there is never enough support. There's never enough professional learning. There's never enough time. And it's a lot to ask of any one person for sure. And, but Nicole's done a really phenomenal job giving people the information they need to. Nicole and Jason, of course, have done a really phenomenal job of giving people the information that they need to help.
Yes.
Yeah. Nicole, how about you? What do you think?
What do I think that, what?
What do you think? What do you think about what Marilyn has said?
I appreciate it very much because Marilyn is extremely well versed on these different conditions, and she's an amazing advocate. So having her here and being willing to be here when she's away and doing this for me means a lot, and her support means a lot. She has a high degree of integrity, so I know that she's here because she believes in this. And I share what she said. I believe that the teachers that Jason has had have tried, but I also believe that if we had more education as a field, he would have been identified earlier. And I believe that a lot of the rocky moments that he's experienced could have been minimized or maybe not even happen. And, if we were to be completely honest here, the people that are, he's giving me a thumbs up, the people that suffer for that are the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a lot at stake. It's very serious. There's a lot at stake. And, I didn't know what to do with Jason. And I'm sure Marilyn didn't, she shared, she didn't even know the names, what those names meant. I didn't know the math one until like right now, Marilyn. So, and I'm a teacher, back to that. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure I've had kids in my class like that, but the thing is that, who's paying the price for that? Mm-hmm. That's what we need to really be looking at it. And it's not about laying blame, but it's about being honest.
Yeah. I think, and not to interrupt, but I think that there needs to be a clarification. Like, being honest is very different than saying I'm blaming you or I'm attacking you. There seems to be a difficulty with, in general, people handling honesty, because you can't address a problem or fix a problem, if you want to say that it's a problem, if you can't acknowledge what the issue really is. And I just think that we're talking about children. Children, they don't walk into school with a mindset like, ooh, I can't wait to act out in class. They walk into school with like, oh my God, bright eyes for the most part. So I'm talking about a child entering kindergarten. When they cross that threshold, it's a huge moment in their life, and they're typically wide-eyed and eager to learn. Mm-hmm. And so when they enter a classroom and they love to learn, so I heard some very key things from Jason. So he loves wars. So he loves history, I would say. He loves project-based learning, right? He needs motor breaks. He needs everything. I won't say everything, but many things that an antiquated system is not built to accommodate. And the reason I say that is because I have experience. My daughter was in a traditional public school from kindergarten through third grade. And now, since fourth grade and now in seventh grade, she has been in a private specialty school for children with language-based learning difficulties, which you could say that ADHD is one of them. Okay. And so the difference is like such night and day. My daughter literally hated traditional public school. Why? Because the way the teachers, and no fault, I am not here to blame teachers. What I'm saying is the way that our teachers are trained to teach does not engage all learners. And so if a child who's does not have the cognitive capacity or maturity to understand why they don't understand what's going on in the classroom, the behavior is a result of that. So I always try to challenge teachers to think there's a behavior during a specific lesson. Is it math? Oh, well, maybe they have dyscalculia. Is it reading? Oh, maybe they are dyslexic. Are they excusing themselves to the bathroom frequently? Most likely that's because they're not processing the lesson the way it's being taught. And that is a key indicator that they learn differently. They're not engaged. And so the behaviors are, in my opinion, and the research supports this, behaviors are the result of basically a disengaged learner. So why have they disengaged? And I would guess 9 out of 10 times it's because they're neurodiverse and they're not grasping the lesson because of the way it's delivered. And again, no fault of our teachers. One of my biggest goals is to reform ed prep, the pre-service teacher level. Once again, you cannot expect any teacher in the world to engage all learners when they don't even know all of the isms that a student may have in their classroom.
Well, I think go ahead, Nicole.
Sorry. No, I just wanted to address what you're saying, Marilyn. And also, Jason showed me how to see the chat, so I can actually see the chat now. Yeah, no, and actually when I first saw the chat, I started to get tears in my eyes because the fact that people are here and listening to our story, and it just means so much. But what I wanted to say is that there's 2 comments kind of about time and how education is not one size fits all. So we come back to this major question. Can we in the public schools do this? Can we pull this off? And my answer is honestly, we have to. We have to. There's no other way about this. We have to do this. And I think that one of the ways that we can do a lot better is that IEP and 504 accommodations are a definite important legal protection. I have full respect for them, but I'm also going to share with you that I always have over 150 students, and I care deeply, and I don't memorize all of their IEP accommodations. I can't. Mm-hmm. I want to, I care, but I can't. So what I go back to all the time is this concept of there are whole class accommodations that we can implement in our classroom, and they're best practices that proactively handle a lot of these disengagement issues. And they're accommodations that are not only beneficial for my son, but they actually are best practice for the classroom. Yes. And one of the biggest blessings that I think I'll take away from this experience of writing this book is that I have 10 experts in education that were willing to, the whole thing came from Jason's observations and our conversations and our journaling. And then when I would say, well, this recess thing, why do they keep taking his recess? And that can't be good. And then Dr. Brad Johnson comes in and says, you're right. And this is why. And then was willing to write a piece in the book about accommodations, or Laura Robb or Dr. Leichtman. All these educators in the book contribute from their fields. Scott Nunes with gamification, et cetera, where from their area of expertise, or their content area, if you will, there are whole class accommodations, Alice Aspinall with math, that we can implement as best practice. So we can begin to look at our ADHDers or our neurodiverse children, not as the outliers, but maybe as a litmus test. So said more simply, if I can engage my ADHDers, I know I have a really lesson. Okay. All right. Like I'm doing really good if I have my ADHDers on board.
Yeah.
So, they actually do raise the bar for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are accommodations. So, I don't ever want to overwhelm teachers with more things to do.
Yeah.
But I do think that these best practices and accommodations in the book that are for the whole class raise achievement for everybody while handling a lot of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are, and I hate to end this conversation, but we are actually already over time. This is like the fastest hour of my week ever, or when I do the EduLaunches. And I love what you both said. I agree in full. Like nobody is saying teachers don't do enough. But I do think it would be fair to say that teachers are often not given the right professional learning opportunities. We're so concerned about changing the math curriculum every 3 years and changing the literacy curriculum every 3 years and retraining everybody all the time that we forget that there are actually super important professional learning opportunities that we need that don't fall under math and literacy and, that are beneficial to our students. And I love, Nicole, that you said that there's whole class strategies you can do to engage your students. And even like what Jason said, project-based learning. Hello, we know this. We know that that's the case. We know project-based learning engages students. So why aren't we doing it? It doesn't only engage ADHDers, it engages, not if potentially all the students in the class. And so, it kind of goes back to that when we know better, we should be doing better. And especially because like Marilyn said in the beginning, we're working with kids. It's a huge commitment and such a beautiful payoff when it works for both them and us. And so we have to do, Marilyn, we're going to let you go because you are like skiing and doing really fun things that we're not doing.
Thank you, Marilyn.
So thank you so much for joining us. We super appreciate your input. It was lovely to listen to you.
Jason, you're amazing.
Thank you.
Don't ever forget that.
I won't. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Marilyn. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Okay. So the last thing that we get to do is we get to pick winners of your books. Are you giving away 2 or 3 books tonight? 2 books?
I
Correct?
think it was 3, wasn't it?
Is it 3? Okay, we can do 3. So
Okay.
usually how I do this is I just kind of scroll through. You can tell me to stop or Jason can tell me to stop. And I
What'd
choose
you do?
the first person on that. So Jason, tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Okay, that's our publisher. So we're going to pick the person who is Scott Nunes wins one of the books. So Scott, if you can reach out to Nicole, Nicole can get that for you. All right, so we're going to do it again. All right. Tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Tara DeCidero. I am
Person,
murdering that last name.
That's the person with the sign. You're right.
Yeah,
Jax.
yeah.
That's
Jax.
the mom of Jax. You won the book. So please reach out to Nicole.
Yeah.
And then one more, Jason.
Stop.
Dominic Biscotti. I take it you guys know Dominic?
No, that's my uncle.
Well, he won a book. So that is amazing. So Dominic, if you know Nicole and Jason, please reach out to them and they will send you a signed author copy. So this isn't just any copy. It's a signed author copy. So, all right, my friends, I am so happy for you and congratulations on your book, Nicole and Jason. This is super exciting for us as a publishing company and also just a gem for the education world in general. And so thank you so much for writing it.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, for all the support from EduMatch. You guys are amazing. It is a family.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for all the people that are here. I just can't say enough how much it means to me as a mom and as a teacher that so many people care to hear a voice like this and to read this kind of work and try to do better for ADHDers.
Yeah, well, absolutely, and we are honored at EduMatch and love you both. So thank you so much. For those of you who are watching us, you can order the book off Amazon, although Amazon is having a glitch right now. Stupid Amazon. So it should be available by tomorrow. It's showing unavailable. It's totally available. But if you can't get it on Amazon and you want it now, you can also get it on Barnes and Noble. You can get it on Kindle. There are other ways that you can get it too. And then also, if you would like to order any kind of bulk orders, we offer a discount at only 10 books. And so if you want to order 10 or more books for a professional learning opportunity, then you can do that by emailing Sarah Thomas at edumatchbooks@edumatchers.org. You can also find Nicole at www.nicolebiscotti.com. So again, from the EduMatch Publishing family, we thank you for being here and have a fantastic weekend.